Hello friends, my name is Jake Montanez, and this is my self-publishing vlog where I document my journey to get my first novel published in a self-publishing journey. And in this video I wanted to talk about a character of mine named Driver. Alright, so who is Driver? He's kind of the driver of the plot. Where does his name come from? Why is he called Driver? Those are probably the first two things you're going to want to ask. And that's actually a pretty simple and silly story. Again, like a lot of my things, a lot of characters come from my characters that I have in World of Warcraft, usually just by name and slightly by profession. He was a shaman that I had created, a troll shaman, named after the sonic screwdriver of Doctor in Doctor Who. And it was when I was way more into Doctor Who, because I was still consuming the hell out of that content when it was coming out. During my Navy days, my wife had introduced me to Doctor Who, and I was like, all right, cool, this is interesting. And I started creating a bunch of characters kind of named after whatever I could come up with Doctor Who, and boom, I couldn't get Screwdriver. Actually, I got Screwdriver. I was able to get Screwdriver, but I didn't want to call a character in a book Screwdriver. So I took the very tiniest elements out of there, that he was a shaman, and shortened his name to Driver, and then decided he would be kind of the MacGuffin, I guess. Yeah, not really MacGuffin. Just the driver of the plot, the guy who kind of is a little bit kooky and moves things forward. In my world, the ability to communicate with the elements, which I have documented in at least one other video, is something that a user of the elements kind of communicates. They're all looking up to the sky, trying to listen to all of the things that are surrounding him. He can hear the air, he can hear the water, he can hear the earth, he can hear the titanium, he can hear the leaves growing, he can hear the weeds popping out of the ground. All of these various things are inundating a shaman all the time, and it becomes very hard for them as they grow in their power to try to filter that out. And as a consequence, he or she, anybody who is a shaman, begins to talk to those elements as if they are his constant companions, because they are. And he can be talking with a buddy of theirs over here while simultaneously trying to hold a conversation with the elements over there. And it gets very confusing to the people who are trying to interact with them. Now, Driver is a fairly exceptionally powerful shaman in his own right, and is somebody that Trinea and Daitan encounter relatively early on. In fact, in the current iteration of the story, it is in fact Trinea's encounter with with Driver that sets off her journey at the very beginning of the story in the prologue. So if you kind of are a prologue skipper and you want to skip over those, it's effectively chapter 1 plus. I just call it the prologue because from the events that happened in that prologue between Driver and Trinea, everything kind of skews off into a tangent for Trinea's life, and things change. She is thrust from her normal, everyday, day-to-day life into this journey where things have changed dramatically for her, as she has been imbued with these powers that she doesn't understand, that are different from elemental powers, but they are intrinsically tied to them. Now, Driver has his own peculiarities because his sanity is pretty far gone. I take some of my own elements as a dad saying weird shit to my kids, and kind of extrapolate that into his character a little bit. He's very kooky. He has dissociated from talking with people. He no longer really interacts with them on a normal day-to-day basis. He's very reclusive. He doesn't bathe. If you asked him, he probably couldn't tell you the last time. If he walked into a rain shower for whatever reason, it's probably the last time he was even close to clean, right? His teeth are kind of rotting. His hair is all shaggy and grown out. He just doesn't know how to talk to people, and he has a hard time finding his own words. He is, I wouldn't say necessarily comfortable with, but he doesn't try to hide from the fact that he is just talking to his elements at the same time as he's trying to talk to other people, and it's very confusing to the people that are interacting with him. And in the process of editing, as well as hearing some of the feedback from my editor, she was very confused in some cases. She loved the character, but she said some of the things he talked about were very confusing, and that's very intentional on my part. He is supposed to be very representative of a future that Daitan can very well walk down as he further embraces his own elemental use in the story. I wanted it to be a parallel to the very real threat of the way things can go for Daitan as he moves forward with his own story. So that needed to be illustrated and highlighted from the very beginning, that if you walk this path, this is kind of where you're going, right? And that needs to be a fear in the back of his mind, like, what am I going to do if I start losing my marbles? It's also something that Trinea ends up leaning heavily into further down the line as well. Seeing how Driver exists in the world and seeing how her friend is already starting to go down that path kind of allows her, or forces her hand, I guess, to make certain decisions with regard to Daitan that are not necessarily in his best interest, even though she may think that it is. So it all boils down to trying to have a fundamental understanding of what are the dangers of using the elements, and that's all kind of encapsulated in everything that Driver does. And without having Driver in the story to be that focal point, that lightning rod of ideation of what a potential worst case scenario is for a shaman, then there wouldn't be some of the ideas and concepts that spring from that that lead to the decisions that my main characters make, and how things start to unravel for both of those further on down the line. So if that sounds like an intriguing character to check out, I would strongly recommend that you follow my journey and get my book when it comes out and see how things play out. Thank you for watching my videos, as always, and have a nice day.